本当？見えないでしょ？どこにいるのかな？見えないよ。
What's good, Internet? It's January 7th, 2022? That feels weird to say.
I've been having trouble with that as well. I find myself
2022.
I've never had this happen verbally, but back in the writing the check days, which I only do once in a blue moon, which is we get over writing the year. But now, for some reason, 2022 keeps slipping me up.
I think in part it doesn't help that 2019 was the last time it felt like a year rolled over in a normal way. And to an extent, we've just lived in 2020 ever since. And that is not that feeling is not helped by the fact that I don't know how it is where y'all are, but the streets here are empty the way they were early in the pandemic. It's real bad in Massachusetts, and so mask mandates are back in. Lots of places have just closed or working reduced hours. Not much indoor dining is still happening. And so I was out this morning.
Shit is real when the Little Caesars is please don't come in the door. Please place your order online. I was like, oh damn, where goes Little Caesars, there goes the nation. And Little Caesars does not want you coming in to get your hot and ready, right? That's their whole thing.
Pizza. And they call it 2022 because it's the second 2020.
Yeah.
The first 2020 was 2021, and 2020
Well, we're going to get it right this time. We're going to get it right this time, and fuck, I'm skipping ahead. There's our segue. Hey, that's Patrick Klepek. You heard our producer, Ricardo Contreras. This is episode 452. I'm Rob Zacny. I'm your host. But, Patrick, you've been playing a game that's all about getting shit right the second time.
We're done with COVID. All right. Rob, much like the United States, has said, well, I've identified an off-ramp. We're done with that. Can we talk about games instead?
An off-ramp. Jesus Christ.
Yeah, the off-ramp is everyone's going to get infected. Sorry, Rob, finish your segue. What am I playing?
I mean, you did end up playing The Forgotten City, right?
I did play The Forgotten City, yeah. Well, it's funny. This ties into COVID, which is that my kid's school, she's my oldest in kindergarten, it wasn't getting out until the 2 weeks I was off. There was 1 week where both kids, she needed to be in. My kids were gone. My wife was not off work yet. I had this moment in front of me where 3-4 days of I don't have anything to do. I can't go anywhere. Nor in non-COVID times, they're I'll just take my kids out, and go do something fun with them. We'll go to a bouncy castle or something. Can't do that. And I was I just have 3 or 4 days where I'm gonna, wake up at 6:30, drop the kids off at 8, and I come home and it's just what do you want to do with the day? I found that daunting. I actually found I have not been in that position for years. Sometimes you get an isolated afternoon or a morning or whatever, but to just have 8 hours of what's up, man? How you feeling? It's I don't know how I'm feeling. And so I'd already done my game of the year list, and I was well, I'm going to watch a mixture of movies.
I was done with mine too.
Yeah. God, I'm still working on his, from what I understand.
Yeah.
Whatever. Most award game of the year list should come out in January anyway.
Yeah.
So
what the fuck?
Okay. Well, mine published in late December, and then I tweeted about it in early January. So roughly the same thing.
Making another Twine game, which is why it's taking me extra time.
Well, there you go. And so I had a list of games I wanted to check out just for my own personal interest. And one that people had kind of bugged me, a bunch of us about over the years was The Forgotten City, which is originally a Skyrim mod, I believe, and then became its own project over. Well, go find more details. NoClip did a mini doc about it recently. I'm sure you can find more details about its development. But the short version is Skyrim mod becomes full-fledged spin-off product. It's a game in which you wake up on kind of the shore of a river. There is someone there that says, "Hey, I found you. Like, are you okay?" You're not really sure what the deal is. They tell you that someone else had washed up on the shore as well, and could you go fetch them around the corner? And then they'll hop you in their boat and like that kind of canoe, like that they came across you while you were while they were going down the river. Go find them, and then we'll like get you back to civilization, get you patched up. And then as you kind of work your way over, you like find this little temple. And as you interact with like some writing there, you like fall through a hole and you are transported.
Roman Brigadoon.
Yeah, you're transported to it's an ancient Roman city hidden away from the world, full of very Skyrim looking NPCs. Like these Skyrim roots of this game run deep in a way that is like extremely charming. I thought, but. You quickly come to realize that this city is like run under this very draconian rule, which is that if any sin is committed, a series of angels will appear and turn everyone into gold forever. And
you know that this is for real because on your way into the town, like after you get dumped through the hole, you end up in the ruins of the city. You're going through like a shattered city where there's a bunch of like people in various stages of freak out who've been gold fingered.
So they're very much going, "Oh no!" and then they have turned into gold. Suggesting that whatever the policy that is currently in place in this city maybe has been violated in the past, and there are visual reminders throughout that this is real, and if you commit a sin, then this is what you'll be subject to. So basically, you're brought in, you meet like the leader of the city. There's an election coming up over whether this previous ruler, who's been very strict about the sin rule, should stick around, or if someone else should come into office. And you're basically charged with coming in to get out. It goes from there. There's like a lot that I don't want to touch on in terms of like the more practical nature of what's happening. But this is a time loop story. And so you're basically going in for X amount of time, learning a bunch of information from various NPCs about how the loop of this world works, then coming back into it and using that information to advance various storylines, manipulate various storylines, and achieve one of, I think, 5 endings. It works the way a lot of these kind of like multiple ending stories work, where there are like bad ends, unexpected ends, and then there's sort of a true end once you have all the information, all the manipulation at your fingertips that allows you to sort of see sort of what are the game's like true canonical ending, where you learn quite a bit more about like what's going on here. I really enjoyed it. I'm not a philosophy major, so I don't know where I come down on the game's like commentary or like inspection of like what is or isn't a sin. But as a time loop puzzle game, I found the Forgotten City to be incredibly charming and interesting. And it's like 4 hours long. Like it was like just like in and out, and like that was great. That was weird. I wish more games had the courage to be this short and this effective.
Oh, and because I was definitely poised for like, they're like, there's 23 people in this town or whatever, and so I was like, that's gonna take a while to unravel what's going on here. Like, just imagine, like, think about however long it took me to sort out. The movie, the game about the boat, the haunted
Return
boat.
of the Obra Dinn.
Yeah, that game is that's a game ass game. That game goes on for like 15-20 hours, doesn't it?
Yeah, and like, because basically like every single character, except for some of like the miscellaneous crew, where it's like, and these 8 dudes all got killed by the tentacle monster all at once.
Murked in
it's
one
like,
scene.
Mystery solved. But
Yeah.
But like for the most part, it's like every single character, you're like, what the fuck happened to this guy? And so it's kind of like, because I've been playing it a little bit too, and I'm with you. Like, I find it unexpectedly charming. It was a game I saw at PAX. Gosh, must have been 2019.
At least 2 years ago.
And I was. This was not a game that was going to show well at PAX, right? I'm standing there, like show floor is just like booming noises. I'm trying to follow this like really contemplative, mellow little mystery story. It's got, if you remember the Rome Total War soundtrack, the original, it's like the title music and the map music from that game runs throughout this game. It kind of sounds like it's very chill, very relaxing. But I was sort of like, the vibe I was getting was, wow, there's gonna be like 23 different mysteries I have to unravel in this town to figure out like what's all going on, who's breaking the golden rule. I'm kind of relieved to hear that it's only a few hours, and that it's not
I mean,
like,
there's like your mileage may vary on like where you want. Like there'll be a certain point where you sort of understand, like I know what I have to do. I could go do X, Y, and Z, and then set up what is clearly like the end game. And then a lot of the fun becomes, well, I have this information. Like, what if I did this thing in this different order? And like in the game being smart enough to realize that, give you different dialogue outputs as a result. And so a lot of the fun of the game is like deciphering those outcomes. And the game actually has like a really, really effective. I'm not sure how far you've gotten into the loops, Rob. So
I did some experimenting with the loops to see like what they will like. First of all, I was really curious. The first thing they're doing is like, well, people aren't really sure what a sin is. Like, we haven't really tested it. And I was like, I'm gonna test it.
Yeah, there's and yeah, you can like right from the start just like go like there are items that in a very Skyrim fashion that says like red text steal, and it's like, well, let's see what happens. Like grab steal, and you just hear like a booming voice that's like, I forget what the dialogue is, but it's just like, you fucked up, and it's not that, but it's basically that. And then all of these, like kind of like angelic golden archers appear and start shooting all of the town's residents, turning them into gold. And then it's your job to get back to this portal and jump in that and start the loop up again. But the important part, that's like it's interesting to point out like how the loop works. You can take things forward. So like the loop does not begin you from basic zero. So like there are certain items that upon the first loop are expensive. And I was like, well, how would I even earn money? And then doing one of
just got bags.
Well, so during one of the side activities or like NPCs I was investigating, I went up and checked out their room and opened up like their personal chest. And it was like, hey, if you like the game was in the UI indicating you do this, like you're gonna trigger the goal. Like, yes, this game is about what is the golden rule? What is a sin? How do we determine that? Isn't it sort of, that seems pretty arbitrary in terms of what that be? But then the game is like, yeah, but like if you open this chest, dude, it's going to be a sin. And so you open it, but then it'll be like, yo, here's 5,000 gold coins or like whatever the currency is in the game. And you can take that and then sprint to the portal and like take that 5,000 coins with you to the next loop.
I'm making a note of where I'm finding cash. And so once I give myself the signal, I got a little shopping or something like that little Nickelodeon toy run where I'm going to have a strategy. I'm going to be like bursting into someone's home. Golden Archers will be cutting people down. I'll be like, sorry about killing your entire city. I need this cash.
Have you talked to the bartender? Who's like directly to the left, like one of the first areas. There's a when you open the game, like you go down the left-hand path, there's like a woman kind of speaking in tongues or like she's confused. And then if you follow her, there's a bartender. Go look upstairs. Like, you won't have to memorize anything ever again, Rob.
Nice.
And so you can bring items forward, you can bring money forward, you're bringing information forward. And then as you solve quests, you might be asking yourself, okay, well, boy, wouldn't it be possible that this game could get awfully repetitive where it's like you need to go repeat tasks A, B, and C again in order to trigger something really far down the chain. And the game smartly anticipates that. And there's this character you meet as soon as you come in. He's like the welcomer. He's like, whoa, where did you come from, stranger? And he's this very delightful gardener character. And when you come through the loop a second time, you can just instruct his ass to go do things, which is like, hey, X thing that I've already solved, like, could you go do that? Y thing that I've already done, could you go do that? And he's just a nice guy who's like, I don't know why. How could you know and have all these things? But I'm on it. Like, I'll go do this for you. So you can sort of like set up chains of events that you've already accomplished, and then go about doing something else because you want to know if past that part of the loop something triggers that you want to play around with.
Dude,
so,
after Deathloop and 12 minutes, the ways this game saves your time and just like accepts like, yeah, I know, you fucking got it. And it's like, yes, I do got it. We do not need to do this again. I am so like, the first time I realized that like every conversation option had like really smart short circuit the conversation to get to a new state or like bring that person up to speed without having to speed through dialogue. It was just a godsend. And I think it says a lot. The second time you meet, what's his name? Galerius, a little farmer dude. He's also like, oh man, I didn't know you know all this stuff. Hey, check out my zip line. And I was like, fucking yeah.
He also has this like almost fourth wall breaking line where he says, hey, if you're tired of talking to me, like, just say this and we could just stop doing this. It's the game, like, is just really smart. It feels like it's played by humans, which is like, how would someone respond to the repetition of a time loop? And then how do we respect their time as they continue to go through that loop? And I mean, you can trigger like his actions and then go watch him do it. Like, it's not like it just happens in a blink. Like, as you're nearing the end state and you're choosing to enact those or not enact those for different reasons, you can go watch him like go do the little bits and like and you'll hear conversations that you don't even need to hear. Like, it's there to be a function for the player. But if you follow him, you can hear him have completely optional conversations with NPCs about the action you've sent him to do. And so one of the loops, I just like followed him around and just kind of listened to like how people reacted to what he was doing. And it's just a really, really smartly written, designed game. And the ending is you have to see. I think they stick the landing insofar. I don't like how mechanically it works. I ended up referencing a guide because to get to, it's the one point in the game where they don't, like, there's a fail state that is extremely frustrating and I didn't understand why I was hitting it. And to get to that moment again required me to do enough work that I was like, all right, game, I've done it. Like, I know what you want me to do. For some reason, I'm not doing the exact thing. So I looked it up and how to navigate a certain thing, and it was still extremely satisfying. The explanation they have for like how this world works, why it works, the nature of the golden rule and sinning, I thought was pretty good. Again, I don't know that the game. I don't even know that the game is all that interested in like. It explores the nature of like sin and rules and morality. I could kind of take or leave that part of it. I just think it's a smart, fun story, and the puzzle stuff is both light enough but also intense enough to like really have grabbed my attention from start to finish. A game I also finished like in a single day. I was like, oh, nice. Wow, look, this is incredible. Is this what? Do people do this all the time where they just like start a game and finish it like really quickly?
Can't imagine.
Not my life.
Yeah, I want to play more. We'll talk about it more because something I'm already interested in is like, stoicism is coming up a lot in this, where there's different like at least the Roman Stoic philosophy is represented a lot here, and like the Sentius camp, which is sort of the people who are big supporters of the current magistrate, are very much like Stoics and believe in like traditional Roman virtues. Mm-hmm. And you have different options when it comes to like, debating people like that, or like sort of reacting to their worldview. And I am curious what else might be in the game, because like the one thing that gave me pause back when this was shown to me at PAX was like, one of the designers from Dear Villagers was sort of talking about like a big inspiration for this was his interest in Stoicism and Stoic philosophy. And I get it, I do. But also the thing is, and this is me sort of putting on my classicist hat a bit, Roman virtues were always honored more in the breach than the observance. Like, they're a deeply hypocritical people. And so, like, to study Roman Stoics and Stoic philosophy is often to study people who were kind of full of shit. And so, like, I've been kind of curious to see how the game is going to navigate this, because part of this is about, like, well, it's simple. We just don't sin and we'll be all good. But it's tricky to know, you know, who is the ultimate arbiter of that morality. Stealing will trigger the end, but then you hear that the dude who's trying to overthrow the mayor basically in the next election is like openly electioneering on a campaign of bribery and intimidation, and nothing's happened yet. So I'm really curious.
The game has an answer for that. Is what I'll say. I like, if only to tease you to make sure you see it to the end. There is a I don't know if rational, but there is an explanation for the rules of this world, and that gets into like the ending of the game almost feels like I haven't watched the doc. I don't know where like the writing on this, like the premise, like the ending feels like where the game started and then built out like how do we get to this point? I think that'll make more sense when you experience that. But the tone of the player character is, yes, you can debate them, but like the whole tone of the writing is fuck off. Like that, and you can almost basically say that like dozens of times when you encounter someone who is trying to present the like that version of morality that you're describing as though like it's rational and makes sense and like isn't full of like holes like Swiss cheese. And a lot of your response to that is not so much like a debate me, bro. Although the game does have those moments. It's more like, you just seem like an asshole, and what you're doing is for assholes. So you kind of have to see it all the way through to kind of discover the through line they have there, which I think is certainly a swing. So you'll have to we'll put a pin in this now, and we'll have to revisit when you finish it. But it's on Game Pass. It's a couple hours long. I would definitely. There are endings to this that feel like an ending, but I would really encourage you to make sure you see all the way to like ending 5. Like when you get an ending, it like puts a little timeline chart, and you can clearly see like something at the end. Make sure you see the one all the way at the end. It's not that much more effort to get all the way there. And then just if you get tired of the mechanic that it employs, just pull up the guide and do what I did and just make sure you can see how it all wraps up.
All right, so that is the Forgotten City from Dear Villagers, and pretty easy enough to find and get, and is if you're put off like I was by how rough it looked, it like in release form, I think it's firmly on the more charming than not side of things.
It doesn't feel, and you don't feel the ancient Skyrim bones until you talk to an NPC and they begin to talk to you, and it's just
but even then, like the voice acting is just good enough, and the writing is good enough that like you also get into, there's a lot to be said for people who are just like decently rendered talking heads who don't like have to do a whole lot of like scene blocking and shit, where it's just like, I'm just gonna chill back here. This person's going to talk. It's going to be all intelligible and going to navigate this like really simple conversation tree, and then we're going to be done. I'm like, this approach has a lot to recommend it. Some limitations are good.
Yeah. Yes. It is a game where frequently you talk to a person, do all the dialogue in front of you, check, you're good. You can move on till you have very clearly unlocked something else that would give you a reason to come back. But it is very tight and concise from top to bottom, which is, probably in some ways an extension of the size of the team, and it's starting as a mod and becoming a full release. But sometimes those constraints work to the benefit, and that is definitely the case here.
So, Kato, as I understand it, Patrick's out there beating games. And
Jesus.
You were too, right? You crossed off League of Legends, Destiny 2.
Beaten, finished, done,
Yeah.
check marked. I've played games that are impossible to finish. Well, I guess technically.
So tell me of your holiday gremlining. Where did this? You finally had time. Well, except you also ended up on a boat.
Yeah, I ended up
Explain
on
to me the boat real quick. You went on a cruise.
Yeah, my sister works for a cruise, and cruises were allowed to reopen, and so she got our family a cruise for the Christmas break.
Oh no! I guess you guys
just
are all
in time
fine.
to be a perfect place to hang out inside with people.
Luckily, the decks, they had lots of open space on the different decks on the cruise, where I spent a lot of time being away from other people outside, letting the sea wind carry all the Omicron away from me.
You weren't just like in people's faces, like trash talking them during shuffleboard.
Oh God, no! I didn't even go near the shuffleboard. I played mini golf though. They required vaccinations to get on the cruise at least, and like everyone got a rapid test on the way in. Still not enough measures to really know.
Oh wow! I thought they had freedom in Florida.
No, I thought that was like the whole thing where like DeSantis was fighting with the cruise ships for a long time, where DeSantis was like, nah, you can't require those things, and the cruise ships.
He's
like,
running up gangways, ripping masks off of people.
Basically, like it was like one of those weird moments in which in a state like Florida where you have dipshit like DeSantis running around. I think there's some clip yesterday of him having a horrifying coughing fit. That's like, does he just have COVID? And he's like, I can't admit it. Be strong. Be strong.
If I just ignore it, it'll go away.
Like the cruise ships like threatened him and like actually like shifted around their weight to the point that he was forced to either relent or like lost in the courts, and they were like, no, we're going to require people to do at least some bare minimum to get on these ships.
Yeah, it was really the bare minimum. And luckily we went through. I'm more scared for my sister who is still on those ships working.
Yeah.
But at least they have to. The staff has to like every 2 days get another rapid test. But it's still hell. But so that was half of the time I was off. And then the other half of the time I was off, I decided to play every live service / MOBA game that I hadn't touched. Every MMO / MOBA game that I hadn't like kept up with. I'm catching up with, basically. Like even Destiny, which was the one I'm the most caught up with. I was behind on the season. Like I hadn't played any of the story stuff, so caught up on that. I started League of Legends more seriously, like started actually playing League of Legends with a group of people who were already playing, which is the only way I think to learn a new MOBA is to have 4 other people who regularly play anyways. But
putting your finger right on one of many issues why I just often slide off those things right at the start.
The only one that I feel like escaped that was Pokemon, but that's like if you have enough knowledge of what Pokemon are, you can kind of like slide into that.
Just what you described there was you just wrecking children.
Yeah, it was great.
It was like there's a bunch of like non-MOBA literate people out there that's just chumming the bucket. And
I love Charizard. It's a free game with Charizard. Yay! Do the fireball.
Kato's
Charizard.
just bursting from the brush, being like, learn the jungle, you sack of shit.
Surprise, motherfuckers. Here's Gengar. It's gotten... I feel like a lot of those people have been mostly weeded out. If my climb this past season was anything to gauge by, it was actually harder to get into Masters, I think, this time around. But I did that. That is kind of a finishing, actually. Honestly, I hit the top level in Pokemon Go. I was like, a Pokemon Unite like rank mode. And I was like, I'll wait until next season to keep playing, unless like people that like I play with want to play anymore, but that climb can be seriously bad alone, which I had to do a little bit of. Do not recommend playing a MOBA with 4 strangers. But at least Pokemon Unite is only 10 minutes, so it's like only a little bit frustrating instead of majorly frustrating. League of Legends though is a real interesting time because the people I play with all play ARAM, all random, all mid, which is kind of great and it's great in this specific instance where I have 4 people, but would be horrible otherwise because it's you don't pick who you're playing, completely random, which in some ways is great for League because in League you have to unlock all the characters before you can play them. In ARAM it'll just give you whatever. So you kind of learn past what is currently unlocked on your account, which is good to know because I think one of the best ways to understand MOBAs is to actually just get a little bit of time with all the characters so that you know what's incoming. You've been on in the driver's wheel of that character, so to speak. That's kind of the easiest way, other than like aside from trying to memorize what everyone does just from like reading their stat sheets and shit. Like that I find impossible. But like, so this has been great. I get a little bit of practice. It's also like low impact as far as like time wise. It's a little shorter because instead of a whole ass map, there's literally one bridge between 2 like bases, and like all the fighting is happening. It's just team fights, the game mode all the time. So it doesn't really teach you about any of the laning aspects of a regular game, but it lets you try out a bunch of the characters.
Real quick, just because I actually want to go back to the cruise thing for just 1 second.
Yeah.
Before I move on from this.
Great.
Setting aside the fact that like it's a terrible time to be on cruise ships and COVID and all that, is it fun? Do you have fun? Were you like, I'm on a boat?
Yeah.
I think it sounds awesome. I think a cruise sounds like it would rule.
It depends. It depends on the cruise. I feel like the whole point of this cruise normally is like you're spending some time on the boat, but mostly you're sleeping on the boat, and then the boat is at an island, and you go to the island, and the island is where you spend your day, right? And it's like, oh shit, look at this beautiful island in the middle of the Caribbean. It's very nice here. White sand beaches, water as clear as fucking, crystal. And I think that part is really nice. For some reason, this one, because it happened over Christmas, they decided to add a day where we just did circles in the ocean, which was on Christmas Day, because they assumed everyone, I guess, would just like celebrate with their families in their like kind of very small hotel rooms on the ship. And that part made me realize, actually, the being on the boat part isn't as great as I think. I feel like that's the least important part of a cruise. I did play mini golf. That was fun, but really, I think especially given that, Omicron was spiking, I didn't want to go to any of the activities. Yeah. I didn't want to be indoors with other people. And so it's hard to gauge whether or not I would have enjoyed that more outside of those bounds. Because, again, the activities are also like, I don't know, pub trivia or karaoke. It feels like things I can do off-land with people that are in my COVID bubble already or something. I don't know.
Well, yeah, I feel like specifically a lot of the activities that are on a cruise seem more suited. Well, I guess it depends on your family dynamic, but things you'd rather be on a cruise with a bunch of friends than you would want to be with your family.
Oh, absolutely.
I think is the vibe I've always gotten. Now, granted, the part of my wife's family, like their family is super fun, and like so going with them on a cruise would be like going with a bunch of friends, and you would have a good time in that same way. Not everyone's family dynamics are like that, and so how often do you want to go sing "Purple Rain" with your family? Having a rum for the 7th night in a row. I don't know.
They also...
No, there's time to say you don't like your family. It's just like, that's not what we do.
Yeah. It's also, it was the Disney cruise. My sister works for Disney because she's a actress and does a lot of, character stuff.
Take my kids next time.
which meant that the karaoke was weirdly like I like tried 3 different songs and none of them were there.
Like, they keep trying. Every time I go to sing this David Bowie song, I keep having to sing "Under the Sea."
I think it was really nice to be on an island because islands are outdoors, and you know,
those beaches sound beautiful.
the beaches were they were really great, and it was warm, but not hot. It was perfect temperature. Honestly, it was beautiful.
Hell yeah.
I love that part. Being on a boat, not so much, not as much.
So maybe just go to an island next time.
Just go
Pick
to
a nice
an
island.
Go
Skip
to
the
an
boat.
all-inclusive on an island.
Oh,
and-
that's the other thing. The island that we went to was very tiny. But apparently the rumor is that it used to be one of Pablo Escobar's like hopover islands. There's a landing strip on it that is still there, and you can ride your bike up and down it.
but it's not used for.
Do we believe that?
I don't know.
I feel like it's one of those things where, like, probably any island with the right wind direction where you could put an airstrip probably saw some smuggling activity at various points throughout the century. But I don't know if like it's like in you know, on the East Coast, the whole George Washington slept here thing, where there's a million places that claim like some brush with greatness, and I kind of wonder if there's a similar thing with Escobar.
Yeah.
Where it's like, oh yeah, no, he totally was like, this is one of his trafficking hubs. And it's like, man, you're only saying that because Narcos blew up.
I wonder because it's a Disney like thing, right? It's that island also on lease to Disney from the Bahamas for 100 years, which didn't know they could do that. So Disney technically owns it.
Wow,
for
that's
now.
like a U.S. naval base lease agreement where it's just like, yep,
Yeah.
we're not saying we own this, but
essentially, I feel like they would not want that connection because it's
So I can
Disney.
only- yeah.
So
I don't know.
I don't see
mean,
them purposefully spreading that unless people hear about it and it was actually true. I don't know. It seems right. It seems the right distance is the thing.
No.
I looked at a map and I was like, yeah.
The
from the
Disney
coast of
Cocaine
Colombia.
Islands theme park would intrigue me, though. However, like, imagine the Imagineers taking on the problem of creating your 1980s Miami Vice fever dream. Check out Manhunting
Yeah.
to hear me and Dia and Alex talk about Miami Vice. But I for one could get behind that, where it's like the Imagineers have come through, and it is now forever Miami in the 80s on this little island that we've leased for 100 years.
An
I would go.
R-rated Imagineers theme park sounds fucking awesome. Just give me Disney After Dark. They flip all the kids movies away, and it's just a bunch
At
of
11 p.m. every night, the police station is stormed by they jailbreak unfolds the police station. And like,
Imagine,
God.
give me a whole the Imagineers unleash them on the Thing. Where's my Thing exhibit? That'd be a beautiful.
God, they used to have an alien one.
At
Thing.
Disney?
At Disney, yeah. Which was bizarre.
Oh, yes, yeah. I went to that once when I was a kid.
It's
Yeah,
like,
the one
why? Who
Like Ridley
gave them
Scott
this?
alien?
Yes,
No.
yes.
No,
Yes,
I
the
don't think it's
xenomorph. The actual xenomorph. Here's the thing. In 2 places in Disney, one of them was in MGM Studios. They did this like tour through like old movies or whatever, and like it went back as far as like Gone with the Wind, and then like came up through like modern times. And there was a section that was aliens. You know,
So that's different than
They-
there's a Disney
But-
Disney or
No.
what the one that's the Alien Escape.
That
where,
one.
like you were sitting in a chair.
Yeah,
I don't
that
think
was
that's a
2.
xenomorph.
It was. It absolutely was. I remember. I'll have to look this up. It was in Magic Kingdom. They've replaced it with Stitch now. It's now Stitch Escaping, but it used to be the
Lilo and
xenomorph.
Stitch?
Yeah, from Lilo and Stitch. Yes, he's like
Wow.
creeping
I
around.
guess he is a little alien.
Yeah. He's a little guy. He can terrorize some people if he wants. But it used to be the fucking xenomorph. I swear it on my life, because I was scarred by it going on it when I was too young, like 7 or something, and could not forget that. So Either that or my mind implanted something. But I swear, I remember
The
also...
original name for this attraction was Nostromo, a reference to the spacecraft from the 1999 movie Alien. Hold, don't get too excited.
Oh, goddamn.
Furthermore, the monster was planned to be the titular creature, and XS Tech was going to be the Weyland-Yutani Corporation. The idea was scrapped for 2 reasons. First, it was deemed too dark and frightening for a Disney attraction. Yeah, no shit. That's
But
why
it
it
happened.
Second, the Alien series were rated R. This contradicted a rule of thumb that Disney attractions are supposed to be either G or PG. Although, Disney has since developed attractions, the franchise that hosts at least one PG-rated 13 film, such as Pirates of the Caribbean, Star Wars, Indiana Jones, Marvel, and Avatar. As a result, the name Nostromo was taken out entirely, and an original monster was created for the ride, and the fictional company was changed to XS Tech. Nevertheless, Disney had acquired the rights to use Alien, and thus they used it in the Great Movie Ride at Disney Hollywood Studios, which uses a scene aboard the Nostromo where a frightened Ripley hides behind a wall while the xenomorph pops out of the wall and ceiling to growl at the audience. So you are either conflating
I'm
or
probably
inventing.
conflating, but wait, but what? So what they changed? Did they change the Alien then? I guess.
No, it was in the conception phase that the Alien license was going to be applied, and then Disney's.
Right, but what did they do? Because there was something. Maybe it just wasn't the xenomorph, but it looked enough like the xenomorph that I thought I remembered it.
It says that as the original story was developed, George Lucas was brought in to work on the project. The Virgin storyline had XS Tech's open house being a front for exposing human guinea pigs to an alien monster they had captured. After the alien menaces the audience for a moment, is revealed to be sentient and desires to escape its captors and free the guests as well. The XS scientists respond, blah 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 blah.
I just wonder what it
played
looks
the
like.
female alien who greets guests in the first pre-show video, although her lines were voiced by a different actress.
Sorry, what?
Tim Curry voiced the audio animatronic robot Sir, simulated intelligence robot. Yeah, Tyra Banks is the face, the body of a character, but her lines were.
But she's in an alien suit.
In the original version, like the character, Phil Hartman's character, or Tim Curry's character, was named Tom 2000. And was voiced by Phil Hartman and had a much more humorous script.
God,
weird.
Did you see what the name of this thing ended up being?
Extraterrestrial alien encounter. That's a great name. We will not besmirch.
That's very funny.
So
I need to see an image of what the fucking monster looks like. Where is it?
I'm showing you. Give me.
I must have just conflated what the two monsters were, because the one in MGM does pop out from the ceiling and is absolutely a xenomorph. I think it did a lot of xenomorph like things. I remember the breathing and like acid dripping situation.
That's a cool ass design. I like especially in the tube that it's in. I distinctly remember doing.
I feel like my eyes were closed a lot of the time too, so this is probably why I don't remember exactly what it looked like. Okay, that's not
extraterrestrial.
But yeah, it did a lot. A lot of that show is in the dark and like with flashing lights of like, oh, you can barely see it moving around, and then like it's breathing on your neck. It's gonna split acid at
D-box,
you,
baby.
but the acid's gonna be water, so you'll be fine. It's a 4D experience.
Yeah.
See,
so now,
this
so
is
now
what we
Stitch.
Now it's Stitch.
Oh, how we fallen as a society.
We used to be a nation.
I rewatched like 3/4 of Lilo and Stitch with my kid over the break. That movie.
Oh
Yeah,
that movie's good.
Beautiful. Like there are several scenes that are these are just watercolor paintings.
Yeah.
The characters are. It's
great.
That movie holds up quite a bit.
Also, one of the earlier affected by 9/11 movies that I can remember. Near the end of that movie, there's a big old plane that's like a spaceship, but it looks oddly like a 747, and it's because in the original script and blocking of those scenes, it was a 747, and it was flying really close through like downtown areas of that movie near tall buildings. And then 9/11 happened, so they had to change those scenes entirely, but kept the model because it was a 3D model. So they just reskinned it.
That makes sense.
All right, well, we will take a break, and then I will let you know about the gremlining I got up to over
Jesus.
holiday break.
Okay.
Be right back, though. I need to top off this nog. If I'm
Oh my God,
Nog?
Kato, keep this in.
Nog?
Some nog for his noggin.
I love nog.
Oh, I feel like eggnog is. There's only two reactions to it. One, I love that shit. Two, that shit's disgusting. I'm on the latter, and I think it's only because I didn't grow up with it. I think it's something that's like I don't think I could be wrong, but I feel like eggnog is either something you're around, like it is like a familial, like a familiar and a familial drink that that's part of your upbringing, or you've never encountered it, and when it's described to you, you react with abject horror with it, which is me.
Have you tried it in all its forms?
I just don't like even like the mention of, oh my, that's horrifying.
Look at it.
What Rob
Look
is
at
doing
it.
right now.
Look at it.
That is disgusting.
What do you got in there? What do you got in there?
Oh yeah.
Oh, my stomach is churning.
Let me just take a hit right off this thing.
Wow, just right out of the bottle. What's in it? I want to know.
Little cognac.
Mm-hmm.
Fair bit of bourbon.
Yes, correct.
Oh, you don't
Good.
say.
Like obviously cream, eggs, vanilla syrup, cinnamon
yeah.
syrup.
Ooh, cinnamon.
And what was the that's another thing I gotta make. I gotta make a Tom and Jerry at some point. Never had it, but it's an old cocktail that's sort of like nog adjacent. But look at this. You gotta make a lot though. 12 eggs.
Jesus.
I know.
Brandy, rum, butter. A whole stick of butter's in here. This sounds good though.
Yeah, so the eggnog I'm having is Tom Macy's. So that is cognac, rum, bourbon, the two syrups, and then heavy cream, whole milk. And it's a modest sized recipe, which is why I made it, because it seemed more responsible as one person to make this recipe rather than make one of the larger ones, which I could scale down, but you know.
Or you could just drink
Sometimes
faster.
scaling recipes can be dodgy.
That's true.
So you don't appreciate my nog, Patrick?
No, I mean, you missed the TLDR was, I feel like either you grow up around eggnog and have a taste for it, or you find the whole concept revolting. And there's no middle ground. People don't exist that go, it's all right. It's just either you think it's you two who are salivating over it, or me who is like, even just watching you like move that bottle around is like, okay. I love eggs, but not in that form.
I wish I had some nog.
Well, you know, Kato, maybe I'll make some late season nog and bring it down for you.
Yes,
it keeps.
Yes.
I feel like you need to make the nog on camera.
There's not much to show. It's pretty easy.
That'd
It
be
could
fun.
be off to the side, a little
Yeah.
side camera of
mixing.
Rob's nog station.
Nogging it
Rob's
up.
nog.
So
Noggin it.
the thing I appreciate though is that this is like mostly booze,
Yeah.
and it doesn't drink like it at all. It's so smooth.
That's a classic Rob.
That's nog though. That's good nog.
It is.
It's
Yeah.
mostly booze.
We've taken a shocking and frankly irresponsible amount of alcohol,
Yeah.
rendered it dangerously palatable, and then just supercharged the entire thing with just tons of dairy, which can only do awesome things to
And eggs.
adults. Yeah, and eggs. It's practically healthy.
You're drinking raw eggs, but it's okay because the alcohol killed everything.
Yeah. There were no survivors.
None at all.
So yeah, this is what I got up to on New Year's Eve. This and doing a little pickling, of course.
Ooh,
You know.
what'd you pickle?
No, I made pickles, but I made dill
pickles.
pickles.
Yeah, nice.
I had some
Nice.
I had some cucumbers that were like about to go off, and I had a bunch of fresh cucumbers showing up for like a salad I was making. So I was like, I know what I'm gonna do with these older guys. I will turn them into delicious pickles, and they're great. And I used the these cool little like pickling jars that I bought, Lakue, that really just make it easy as hell. Because like you can pickling kits, it's not too overbearing to like get a pickling kit, but man, I really do appreciate that these are just easy as hell to use, and you don't. And the problem they've solved is they've got nice little like a rubber flap sits over the holes at the top of the lid, and so when the gas builds up, it just sort of burps itself and then settles back down. So you don't have the problem of like if you're pickling in a mason jar, there's just the odd chance that because you did something wrong, gas won't escape properly and it'll just blow up over the course of fermenting. This solves that, so got up to that. But that wasn't the only gremlining I got up to. Oh, we're back, by the way. So the other thing
we ever went to break.
Excellent. People will hear an ad somewhere.
Yeah, there'll be a space there.
So we talked ages ago about a little game called High Fleet.
Ooh, yeah.
And I bounced off it. I didn't quite the interface was cool and all that. Like Austin had given a decent sales pitch for the presentation of the game. But when I started playing it, I bounced off it pretty hard. In part just to catch you up. High Fleet is this game where it's sort of an FTL scenario where you are leading a fleet of airships on a run across like this hostile territory, this sort of rebelling duchy of this empire, and your goal is to sort of capture their headquarters by the end of the game while you are being hunted by their fleets. But while there's a lot of like cool theme around it, initially what put me off was when it comes to ship combat and also maintaining ships and repairing them on your journey, because as they take damage in battle, you have to find a place to post up and repair them, or you can scrap them and sell them. But the way both of those things were handled was that the ships all had like lunar lander controls, where you apply, like, depending on the size of the ship and how much thrust it has varying amounts of inertia. It has varying amounts of, engines of varying power, depending on, again, on the ship class. And so, like, if you wanted to land a ship, you had to play a little lunar lander game of, like, having this thing falling through the level and then aim for a little landing pad and very carefully set it down. You'd have to do that again and again. And I was like, I don't know that I like Lunar Lander is an old fucking game archetype, and I do not know if I'm like, man, in 2021, I want to play Lunar Lander, but as part of a strategy game. And then in the combat, if you like encounter an enemy fleet, you'd still have like the Lunar Lander controls of this thing, but then also you'd have twin stick shooter stuff happening where your guns would be tracking other ships that are also behaving according to Lunar Lander controls. And your various weapons would fire, they'd have different like exit velocities on the rounds. And so at ranges, you'd have to anticipate the drift of the other ship, the drift of your ship, and like sort of dial in the range a lot. And again, like, I'm not a twin stick shooter guy. This was like really fussy twin stick shooter bullet hell shit. And that's what it is, by the way. It is like we've taken the bullet hell, but now instead of being like really fast and agile, everything's moving at like battleship speeds.
Yeah.
And so I was like, I don't know. Like, it seems cool.
It felt like though that in bullet hell, in like that sort of bullet hell, usually you're actually trying and able to avoid shit. And this is, it feels like meant to be more like you just have to choose which hits to take, right?
Yes.
It is not about avoidance. And I feel like I would go crazy trying to avoid getting shot at all. And it's more like, no, I'm going at them. I'm gonna go at them.
There's some truth to that. Like, for one thing, your bigger ships, like your most capable battleships, can't evade incoming shots.
Yeah.
Not really. They're too slow. Like once the enemy finds your range, you're just going to eat those shots. But they're such huge warships that like they're slabs of armor, because there's a ship custom. Like it's like a trifecta of shit that like I do not like ship designers. And by the way, this is the thing I stand by with Hive Fleet. I think their ship designer sucks. I don't think it's too fiddly. There are things that are critical that the game doesn't present well, like the fact that weapon systems need to be on the power grid for the ship or they won't function. But like there's no there is, but like it's not well represented. And so like it's very hard to see like and figure out like how is power traveling across the ship? Why is it traveling this way? And every time you go in and fiddle with that stuff, you basically have to peel back a ton of layers of your ship and sort of rebuild it from the ground up. It's excruciating. So all the shit was coming together, and I was like, there's cool ideas here. I don't know if I really am digging this. And over break, I decided to give it one last shot. You know, you're sort of sitting there being like, before I put this on the shelf, let me just give it one more try. And I started to bounce off it again. And then I posted about my frustrations on Twitter, and as often happens, you get some advice from people who like do get on with the game, and like it unlocked a couple things. Like for one thing, you got to spread your fleet out more. Your flagship has the biggest fuel tanks in the game, but it's also the slowest, and so it's better as a mothership while you're sending your smaller ships out to like go fight the enemy and gather resources. But once I started playing that a little bit more aggressively, where it's like, okay, this is a little bit more like a fleet command game than I initially gave it credit for, and there's more to it than just winning these little bullet hell slugging matches. The thing that the coin that dropped was the fact that the game actually gets very easy if you win the intelligence battle. If you start moving through the game with good information. And there are ways the game lets you have good information. You can capture on the map different cities on the map have different abilities. So like there are shipyard cities where if you land there, your ships will be repaired at like 3 or 4 times the speed at which they'll be repaired at other stations. So like, man, if you got a banged up battleship that has a huge repair coming, that's where you want to go. You want to go there. But there's other places that sell like more advanced equipment. And so the idea is you want to buy the good equipment there and then install it at the shipyard. And then there's like enemy like intelligence centers. They're basically communications relays where once you capture them, you can sort of tap in to their comms and like get up to the minute information about where some of their fleets are. You get 5 intelligence points basically, and it recharges over time until the enemy realizes that like the network is not under their control. But basically the idea is you can, for a cost of 3, you can figure out, well, where are their super powerful strike groups located right now? For a cost of 2, you can figure out where one of their smaller support fleets is. And for a cost of 1, you can see where trade fleets are. But, and this is where I started to fall down the rabbit hole. There's a communications intercept mechanic to this game, where as you're flying your ships around, you will get little radio you'll hear little telegram messages, and you can dial in. You can open up the radio signal station, and by the way, this is all like diegetic interface, so it looks like literally you have gone over. I just posted a little picture of this interface, where literally you go over to an old-fashioned radio set. You choose the frequency bandwidth you're trying to dial in on, and then you tune until you find a decent signal, and then you adjust the antenna bearing to get the strongest possible signal and figure out where the message is being sent from, and then you intercept the message.
Just make a game around this.
Pardon?
Just make a game around this.
Arguably, they probably should have. But it did. Here's the thing. all of this game is basically, in my opinion, a wrapper around this idea. Like that, all the shooty shit, all this stuff is like, yeah, okay, here's some arcade stuff. You'll be commanding battleships and all that. But if you are winning it in these like shootouts, just having straight up fights, you are a chump and you are not going to do well in this game because you're just like, inevitably you will take so much damage.
Mm-hmm.
But this game gives you the tools to get perfect information. And the way you do that is, so at the start of the game, enemy forces are broadcasting in the clear. They're sending messages openly, unencrypted. The thing you have to realize is that all these units persist in the world. And they all have dedicated call signs. It seems to me they tend to operate on different frequencies. And so you can start to figure out later in the game if somebody with the call sign Canopus is broadcasting. You know from previous experience that is a carrier group. And so they will report their information about their position or what they're doing, what their line of movement is. And then you can just go annotate like, this is where they are right now. This is where they're going. And you have tools like knowing how fast this carrier group is moving. I can mark down what their possible radius is for being here at any given moment.
You have little diegetic like rulers and shit too. You can mark things with.
And you will need to use them. The map will get real busy, but you do need to start marking this stuff down to sort of help you navigate all this. Now, the other thing is, as the game goes along, the enemy starts encrypting messages. And the way you break the encryption is on that little screenshot I sent you, there's the decryption interface. It's below the tuner, where you have those 4 knobs above like little analog digit displays. And each of those knobs can be set between like 1 and 36, I want to say. And basically what that does is it marks how offset, like it basically marks the offset for like, if you press A, the letter that will be created, if it's offset by like 36, it might type 0, right? Mm. Or something like that. Or it's offset by like 20, or if it's offset by like 25, it'll type Z. So that's how you can that is how the encryption logic works. The way you can break into the encryption is when you win fleet battles, you can recover bits of their code by raiding the enemy radio room and figuring out like, okay, so one of these little knobs is right now on today's code, it is set at like 15. So now you at least know that much of the code is good. But you can brute force these things because if you've created like an index of like the various locations, which call sign corresponds with who, you can start guesstimating like, this message is coming from over here. I know there's only 2 different entities out there that could be broadcasting right now. And you can just play with the knobs until you figure out, like, because they all have to sign their radio messages until that part comes into clarity. And if the rest of the message decrypts, you've broken their code. Now you don't even need to waste time stealing more of their encryption info because you've already broken their code. And it's really clever because the thing is, like, this is kind of like an issue with a lot of code breaking, is that the thing that gets codes broken is routine information, right?
Right.
So like in the U-boat war, one of the things that made it basically futile for like the Germans to change codes is that every time U-boats radio their position, there's only so many ways you can disguise a longitude and latitude coordinates. And so you just if you knew there was a U-boat at a position, and generally the Allies did, once it radioed its position, even encrypted, Now you had the key to start breaking the encryption, because you know in that message there is something that says this.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you just fiddle with it until you figure out how to make the message give you that information, chances are the rest of the message will be decrypted at the same time, because that small key allowed you to break the entire code. Similar logic happens here where people are like using the same call signs. So you can use the call sign to brute force your way in. They use the same message formats. And so you can, like, if you know what standard message formats look like, you can guess certain words that are in a message. And so this game that like initially seemed really kind of silly and fussy, and like, I don't want to play a Fleet Command twin stick shooter, but I do want to play a naval war game that's all about like code breaking and figuring out like where the enemy is before they can even see you. Because it doesn't stop there. Like, you can also turn on active sensors. You can turn on your radar and start scanning for the enemy. They will see that. Active radar search produces like, yes, you are shining a light out into the world to illuminate something with radar, but also people are seeing your light is on and they know where it's coming from. And so you kind of, radar's kind of two ways in that sense, where like it both reveals enemy position, but it gives away yours. And so like, you can use that to your advantage. Like, you have anti-radiation missiles that if enemy radar is in the area, you can fire one of those fuckers off along like the bearing you're getting these radar signals from. Chances are you'll hit an enemy fleet. Or vice versa. If you think like, and I did this, like I was pretty confident that I had broken the enemy code. I knew their exact positions. I had caused a ruckus at one of their cities, and I knew that they converge on your last known position. I set an ambush where I had my main fleet sort of hovering just off their line of travel, and I had a little like electronic warfare snooper hovering in a different direction. I used that thing to like light off its radar. It illuminated the enemy fleet. They start attacking that thing, which is the cheapo, nothing little unit, and also could move like hell. But in the meantime, because they'd done that, my main fleet now had their exact position, and I was just able to hammer them with like airstrikes and missile strikes, and basically like demolish them without ever even engaging in the little twin stick shooter thing. It was sort of a clean kill. But that's how this game works, is like, as you go through this, you're sort of conserving your resources and taking the time to sort of play around with these little puzzles. The game gets a lot easier and the balance sort of becomes clear, where it's like, oh, I'm not actually meant to be just making dead-eye sniper shots in this weird twin stick shooter. The game is too hard for that. What I'm meant to be doing is avoiding fights where the outcome is it all in doubt. And so this ended up being like maybe the greatest naval war game I've ever played. Because like, if you read about like 20th century like naval campaigns, this is it. It's all about fuel. It's all about sensors. It's all about signals intelligence. That's the entire thing. Like, by the time the fighter groups are clashing at Midway, like, to a degree, a lot of things broke the right direction for the Americans in the Battle of Midway. But like, any way you slice it, the Japanese fleet was walking into an enormous trap because they had like lost the signals intelligence battle. And that's how these campaigns go. Most games don't know how to handle that. They don't. How do you make it fun? How do you make it interesting? High Fleet does that. They make it enormously satisfying to play around all these little gadgets and sit there with your little like logbook of like broadcast sign-offs and message formats. And like along the way, they've ended up creating a game that gets things about naval warfare that like tons of serious sims just do not. Because so many, like, your typical naval war game is like, it feels like the game that you designed by uploading stat sheets for military hardware and like having it slam into each other. It's not really convincing, and a lot of times it's not really interesting. This gets at a lot of like the underlying logic of that type of campaign and makes it and does it in a really like satisfying and clever way. And so that turned into my game of the break, where I was like, wow, the slower I play this and the more carefully I like mark down my map and figure out like where these guys are, the better this game gets.
Yeah.
And that's setting aside the fact that it actually has a really cool story. I'm not going to get too far into that because like it can go in a lot of different ways. I wish I could go in a few more. There are some pretty firm guardrails, but what you do with the structure of the story can change a lot from run to run. And yeah, I just ended up completely lost to this game, and turned all the way around on it, where I was like, day one of break, I was like, I don't really get Hive Fleet. Here I am, January 6th, being like, really, why isn't every game Hive Fleet?
That sounds like a game that I would be interested in playing. I had like a all right time with the like 4 hours I put into that game, but I didn't end up really understanding the sort of decryption very well.
Well, it doesn't encourage you to understand its importance. You know what I mean? It's like the description is not hard to understand. What is hard to understand is why you would pour time into doing it like that aggressively.
Right.
Except that, the simulation model of the game is like, no, we leave enough breadcrumbs out there that you can basically lift the fog of war, but you have to be willing to do the heavy lifting.
Right. Yeah, it's I was kind of playing, so like the way that the map view works on this is that you can zoom in and out, and as you zoom out, it becomes more abstracted. It becomes just kind of lines and circles. And to kind of illustrate the different ways we were playing this game, when I was playing it, I was fully zoomed in so I could see like the individual ships flying around. Right, I was kind of focused on the micro level, like surviving the battles, trying to outfly the ships, which I enjoyed it as its own thing. I don't. Were you playing with the control? You can't play with the controller on this game, right?
Maybe I did not. I'm mouse and keyboard, man.
Well, this was the question. Just you kept using the term two stick, and I was wondering whether.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, you're right.
That.
It's an inapt term, but you know what I mean.
Yeah. I kind of understand the thought of it, but it's like Lunar Lander with then like you can freely kind of aim in 360 degrees around your ship, but the like controls of the ship are very Lunar Lander-esque, where you're kind of fighting against gravity and thrusting and so like I really enjoyed that part of it, but it felt like I kept getting found out, right? Like I wasn't playing the intelligence game kind of at all. I figured it was I thought it was more linear than it actually is. It sounds like it's actually a little bit more open as far as what those strategies and like how those systems play out.
Extremely, especially because the end, a bit like FTL, once you realize what the end game is, it completely recasts how you're preparing for it. Like it's one of those things where you're like, all right, so getting to the final objective is the puzzle I need to solve for. And it's like, no, once you get to the final objective, now we are setting the stage for the biggest set piece battle of the campaign, but it changes what you're going to want to bring into that end game. Right. And so like, I got there and I was like, I got to the end. And I was like, shit, I had this entire thing scoped out just to reach the end, like coasted on fumes.
Right.
And then it's like, all right, time for the real end game. And I'm like, well, shit, I did not prepare for an end game.
Right. Yeah. I never even got to that end game, so I probably would have also been there barely on fumes. It felt like it wanted you to feel the stress of those fumes a little bit, and so I kind of leaned into that. But it feels like slowing down seems to be actually the better way to play this.
It's interesting.
Out.
So stress is part of it. Like even when you've got things pretty well nailed down, it's a really volatile game. Like if there's a missile strike group that you didn't see, you'll just be sitting there and long range missiles start pouring in, and like
Oof.
they're really hard to survive.
Yeah.
And as you go along, the density of enemy fleets skyrockets to the point where you almost can't move anywhere without you're running into a pretty serious force. And so partly like the stress doesn't go away, but what does come in, and once I started playing it differently, is that initially I was like, this is very much FTL rules, where it's like, what is the most cautious and careful and stealthy route I can take to just sort of like dance between the raindrops here and get to the end. And once I started figuring out like, oh, I can actually break their codes and I can figure out where all these things are at any given moment, and I can raid their trade convoys for money. You can actually become the biggest fleet in town.
Right.
My fleets at this point, like, and they are fleets, like there are like multiple now independent multi-capital ship fleets sailing around this desert, and like each of them blots out the sun, right? And so like and each of them is sort of sending strike craft off in every direction.
Right.
So like once you start to realize like I can just push these systems, it goes from like, oh, it's FTL, how do I get my little carrier to the end of the game,
right,
to how do I turn this thing around 180 degrees and just fuck these dudes up?
Right. See, I definitely didn't think that was where it was trying to lead me. So I played it the more cautious, like I have to. This is about surviving and just surviving, and not like, no, you want to build, you want to get bigger, you want to become the hunter, basically.
Yeah, you do, yeah. Especially because like the more stuff you kill, like you kill an enemy strike group, it's not like the game spawns another one.
Right.
They're just gone, and so your route, just by definition, has fewer like enemies between you and the destination.
Right.
Because like, oh yeah, I killed those dudes.
That's
so
cool.
anyway. I think like I would love to do a meaty tactical Tuesday around this, because like I would love to have you like command a fleet, and I can just offer advice, do a little code breaking. We can like work with chat to like figure out where everyone is. And I think playing it with this new understanding will be able, like I think you'll see like how much more interesting this game is than its initial, like what it teaches you in the tutorial. The tutorial does like just the tutorial teaches you the rudiments of the game. But you know how there's always that second order thing where it's like, what is the conceptual framework I should have to play this game?
Right.
The tutorial doesn't give you that.
Yeah.
It wasn't until like I was like, I don't get this game and I don't like it. The people were like, well, here's how I play it. And I was like, oh shit. I can play it that way. And indeed, I can and do, and then some. So yeah, we'll have to give that a little shot, maybe hopefully next week. And we can fall down that little rabbit hole. I'm a little leery of I can only imagine the speed and efficacy with which like Twitch chat would shatter enemy codes into little pieces while we're sitting there trying to like guess what the message says.
That's half the fun,
great.
though. Playing a puzzle game on stream is just an exercise in frustration for the audience.
It's gonna be great.
It'll be Inscription tenfold in some ways. Like but the other day I was like, man, how inspired by the Enigma machine is this little code book thing? The answer is not very. If you start looking up the Enigma code system, you realize like, fuck, that was a hard code to break. What a wild little machine. Good thing Polish intelligence broke it before World War II started. Anyway, so that's Hive Fleet. We may come back to that on a stream before too long. Patrick, you had mentioned that you had the experience that a lot of people I think had with Halo Infinite, which is, did I get really shit at Halo? In the intervening years, and did you restart on normal?
Yeah. So when I got access to Halo Infinite early in like mid-November, and this was like I think we've mentioned this on the podcast before. Like like it was that version was a ticking time bomb. It was like this game will explode when Halo Infinite goes on Game Pass, and you either need to beat it or don't. And I was like, I'm not gonna do that. So I played up to like being able to write about it, and I was like, I'll get back around to that at some point. And when I played it in the preview phase, I was like, I know that I'm older, I got less time, but like Halo to me is like heroic difficulty. Like that is like, I want the extra challenge. Like Halo's combat is frequently like a mixture of frenetic action and like puzzle. Like you're like, it's like that's what I remember like playing, like especially like Halo 1, 2, and 3 back in the day. And you know, they've gotten away from this language, I believe, at some point.
The way it's meant to be played.
Yeah, the way it's meant
difficulty.
to be played.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like, I mean, like the general sentiment is like, look, hey, we need to sell this game to like the widest audience possible, but like the way we've tuned it for ourselves, the way we think like that, like if you want the quote real challenge, like put it on this difficulty. There are better ways to phrase that, but like that's what they were trying to communicate. And it was like, hey, the normal difficulty is like, you know, it's a little more of a pushover. And so I always played it on heroic, really appreciated like that level of pushback from the game, and played Infinite and was like, all right, like let's do this. And what I discovered playing Halo Infinite was like, oh shit, I'm dying all the time. Like I am just getting my ass wiped in like opening areas. And there'd be like good reason for that to just be natural attrition of like, I don't play these games nearly as much anymore. Like old Halo games, like we used to have competitions between our friends where it's like, how long can you last playing on like Halo Legendary solo? And like, that's how often we played. It was like, we knew the games top to bottom to the point that we could be like, get through whole campaigns. Legendary is meant to be played with co-op. Like that is really not meant to be played by yourself. And so it's like I'm gonna try and, you know, re-experience that with Infinite to some degree. And was just, I mean, you would get across some of these snipers and like you'd walk into a room and like zounk, like just done. Like and it became the way I played like the 4 or 5 hours of Infinite back in November was it was a puzzle, but the puzzle was like, how can I just like eke out these tiny wins, like working my way around like the top of a structure, hiding constantly. I wasn't really using the grappling hook because there wasn't enough time for me to spend using it. I was just desperately trying not to die. And so my thought with when I revisited it, you know, I was trying to catch up to where I was, and I was like, well, I'll put it on normal difficulty. And then I was like, I'm pretty sure you can change the difficulty later. So I started on normal, and what I found very quickly was that I was actually having like way more fun on the quote unquote normal difficulty. I've since learned that they've actually like sort of tweaked how they do that stuff, and like normal is closer to old heroic, and like then heroic is closer to old legendary, and then legendary is like good luck. I don't think it's as simple as that, but I was reading that they've tuned things slightly differently. And the normals is so much more fun because like I am just like zipping all over the place, like using the grappling hook, how it feels like it's meant to be used, which is like as this tool that gets me around the place. I'm actually I responded like okay to those opening hours. I replaying these same opening sections over the past couple of nights, I had 3 or 4 times as much fun. Like I was just like actually like yelling like wee as I'm like working my way around, like ziplining into fucking brutes. And you know, they have this upgrade where if you there's the first upgrade to the grappling hook. Well, there's like 3. Like 1 is the cooldown is faster. 2, it electrocutes them, so it kind of zaps them as you're approaching. And then 3 is if you hold down the melee button as you're ziplining, you like charge up this mega punch and just fucking wallop like whoever. You can like take out a brute in one shot, and then if you upgrade it from there, it does like a shockwave that like resonates out. And I'm just having a great time with it. Like I have like no great insights other than that difficulty was not for me, and the one down makes me feel like I'm playing more of the game that is like intended to be experienced, which is like a very agile like version of Halo, and one in which like reading how this game didn't always have the grapple hook. Boy, this game would be a lot less interesting without it. Like I struggle to understand how this would be anything more than just we hit big on Silent Cartographer. Well, so it's funny because I don't think I ended up including this in a piece, but I like talked to a couple of folks at at 343, and I remember asking about the origins of the grapple hook, and it came out of a multiplayer like prototype, and then the single player team saw it and was like, well, I wonder what that would be like, and then that kind of got pushed into being like a big part of Halo Infinite, which of course then forced a bunch of level designers to go, how would that seems like it would sequence break a lot of things, especially if you're talking about like the more linear stuff as opposed to the open world. I mean, there are.
Well, I guess it's sort of like is because the opening hours gives me such like literally the first level feels almost like a clone of the Leviathan in Taken King. Like literally the hangar you land in. I was like, yeah I recognize these rubble piles. Like literally, this is how that opens. But it's like they've kind of Swiss cheesed a lot of the level structure, where it's like now there's tons of gaps where like dudes are up above or below. And man, if I have the grappling hook,
it doesn't naturally flow. It feels like a. What's interesting is playing Halo Infinite. Just goes to show like how. Like Halo 4 and 5 are just such a waste of time, and that's not to denigrate like the work that those people put into it. But if Halo Infinite is like, it feels like an original idea, where it's like, hey, we're taking Halo, putting it in a different context, and like it makes me so like reading. I think Jason Schreier had a piece, some like just before the break that was like, Halo Infinite was like 2 or 3 times bigger than what it is now around the time that it got delayed in like the summer of 2020, when it had the really poor reception. It had like different biomes and like all the stuff you're like, why doesn't this game have it? Like it did. And then they realized like, we are never going to ship this game unless we get it out of there. But this feels like, and I'm now since like pretty far into the second area of the game. Like it's so easy to like playing 4 and 5. I was like, I don't know what we're building towards other than you just continuing this story and making it more convoluted. But like, I don't know why we're here. And Infinite, I don't care about the story at all, but look, like the way it plays, I was like, oh, I see where we're going. Like, and I see where we go from here. And it seems really fucking exciting. Like, whereas with like 4 and 5, I was like, I don't know what we're building on. Like the next one is just, I guess we're building another, Cortana and Chief off on another adventure. And here's some set pieces and some new weapons. Whereas with this, it's like, well, the grappling hook, the bigger space, no, does it exactly flow together? Not at all. Like it feels like it's a bunch of things mashed up, kind of barely sticking together, but they stick the landing on the idea. And so I like could not be, I'm excited to see where the rest of this goes, but I'm like, I'm like tremendously disappointed whenever the game is like time to go into a Halo level. And I was like, no, like let's stay out here. Like just chilling. Like I got 5 of my boys with me, and we're gonna roll up to this camp and fuck some shit. Like I somehow got 2 of them rocket launchers. Like good luck. Like have fun with my boys. There's girls too. There's a gender diversity in the what is it, the UNSC? Is that the military outfit in those games?
Yeah.
And so
but cold ones can be cracked open. Regardless of the composition of the squads.
Exactly, 100%. I'm just having like it's making me better appreciate like what is here, what is interesting, and I'm having like rather than playing it for perfunctory reasons, I am having like a genuinely great time with it, and I think it actually it took 343 a decade, but I think they've laid down like a really fascinating foundation for where the series could go from here. And again, I haven't seen the back half and whatever, but like just like what they have here in this big space is like, oh man, like it is just not hard to imagine doing really cool shit building on what they have here. Even if it is quite literally just silent cartographer, but like what if big? And that's fine. Like big Halo with the added verticality, like it is actually fundamentally more interesting than I would have given it credit for.
I think
prior to this point.
Yeah, go for it.
I was just gonna say the rudest thing they did was make that campaign give you like you have infinite grapple hook, and in the multiplayer it's a pickup with limited uses. I'm so mad about that.
I actually wish the grapple hook had fewer limitations in the campaign.
Yeah.
Frankly, the cooldown I wish didn't exist.
Sure.
Like there are so many times where
when you just fuck up an easy jump and just mistime the grappling hook, and you just
Yeah.
like, no.
yeah, and that part's funny, and I think would still exist, like because the game is so silly. It's part of the things that I didn't realize how much I appreciated about Halo that is missing from so many other big, serious like AAA shooters. Like Halo is like both deeply serious and also completely silly, and it allows those two tones to exist simultaneously. It's like the gameplay is silly, the story is serious, and it's like unconcerned with.
And the grunts
like,
still say ridiculous shit.
Oh, and they're great. The grunts are
So
so well
good.
written in Infinite. It's like
Yeah.
the best the grunts have ever been.
Oh yeah,
and
I have a small beef there.
yeah, okay.
When you're doing like, figure out your surround sound settings or just any surrounds. When I get subtitles,
Mhm.
I am clearly missing hilarious grunt conversations that somehow the subtitling is picking up. It's like, yep, you should be able to hear this.
Yeah.
And I'm like, are there even grunts around? I don't hear shit. There's nobody anywhere near
Where the
me.
fuck are they?
Yeah. So just like that, and also I swear to God, like another game does the thing where it's like, here are two completely out of context screenshots. Use these to calibrate your HDR settings. It's like, I don't know what that's supposed to look like.
I just click confirm and go, all right.
Hope that works.
You know,
Hey, just
if I,
tune this
if
so
I,
you
if
don't
I,
lose
if
detail.
well, as if you live in ignorance, you can't know if it looks bad.
That's
is
how that
I-
works.
I'm sorry, I'm trying
Well,
to
I don't know that
divine.
I don't know that Rob, who cares a lot, is in a better situation because instead he's just driving himself mad, trying to figure out what he should do.
Yeah, please tell me what your skybox artist wanted the clouds to look like, and then maybe I can dial this in. But at the moment, I'm completely at sea on this. I will say, like, I think, like, just my initial impressions are, for one, I think the grappling hook does a really good job at making playing Master Chief feel a lot more like being cutscene Master Chief. Where
Yeah.
like cutscene Master Chief is just this fucking like, you know, Tom Cruise in the nightclub in Collateral, right? Where it's just like just gunning people down, smacking one, two in the head of the other, moving on. And in the game, it's always been like, okay, well, zigzag in and out of cover and like wear the shields down and like kill guys. With the grappling hook, there's a lot more like, I'm just gonna whip around behind that guy and shoot him, and then I'm gonna whip onto the platform and kill those two guys. And that's kind of cool. Digging that. I think it also distracts me from the fact that, like, man, as a character, Master Chief is a little more plotting than like, he's a little more plotting than a lot of those shooter characters are at this stage. Like, there's a lot of inertia with Master Chief is how he feels. I don't know. He's just not particularly nimble. I guess, you know, he's got an armored suit,
Right.
but I was sort of struck by like, yeah, like movement in this series still feels deliberate and smooth in a way that like a lot of other shooters have gotten have tried to make movement feel a lot more kinetic, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
Even here where you've got like Master Chief can go into a slide and like slide for cover. It's like a little bit, but man, he hits a baseball slide the way I do, right? Where his ass just goes down. He scoots along a couple feet.
Yeah.
It's done. But the grappling hook, without changing up the way Master Chief moves, makes him feel and makes those spaces feel really dynamic. Like in the opening level, the comparison I was coming to a lot was like Doom Eternal, really. Where it's like, yeah, these are really like, look at this 3-layered command deck that I'm fighting on and zipping around. That's surprisingly cool. I'm sort of pleased that they keep seeding new enemies in here, and I can keep
and it's just like, it's so satisfying to enter a space where like you see There are a few shooters that have as satisfying a sniper laser as the Halo series, I find. And like when one of those lasers, because they don't shoot immediately, like they come up on you and you've got a moment to kind of react. And every shot, even on like the normal difficulty, will at least take your shield all the way down. And then on heroic, it's basically like a one-shot kill. Like you just really can't take the hit. But it's so satisfying in this game specifically, in Infinite, to be like, that happens and you're like, oh, I'm coming, motherfucker.
Yeah.
Like, I see you, and you're all the way up in there in your tower, like, that don't mean shit in Infinite. I was like, I'm coming, like Master Chief, like, pull, it's like, and I don't even use the sniper rifle, like, I'm coming with the auto shotgun, like, you know, like,
yeah.
Like, and I'm up there, and I got him, and that feels really good, because it changes your relationship with very familiar enemy types in a way that, like if you imagine the game absent that is just a lot like even like the I forget all the enemy type, but like the ones that hold up the shields, right? Like the fact that you bop them with the jackals, yeah, you bop them with the hook shot, and then you can zoom in there and get. I mean, it's just little tweaks like that where it's easy to imagine like other tools that they could give Master Chief that like allow you to play, like just change that play space and your relationship with things that are familiar without actually fundamentally altering like the core of what Halo is or isn't. And I just I've enjoyed that.
It's very funny to play this being a Destiny player, because that's what Bungie did, right? All of the like you find all the same archetypes and different skins. They still have the like, you can hear the sniper laser coming in on you, and you have that moment to like dodge out of the way. But in that game, they gave you the double jump. The second jump always gives you momentum in Destiny, except for Hunters. Hunters have the worst jump. Sorry, Hunters. But all the other ones, the Warlock and the Titan, both have that extra movement, right? Like that's what. And this feels like this is that evolution, just in a slightly different way of like, okay, here we're expanding Chief's kind of movement. Aside from, they had that one dash one time that was like, was that 5? I forget. I remember like playing some like beta.
I've purged those
or
games
like
from my memory.
But like it never felt right, because it was like either too limited or like, I don't know, like it didn't hit the same way that this grapple hook has hit. Yeah. And I've been enjoying this one a lot more than like the small, very tiny amounts of time I ever touched 4 or 5 at all.
Man, it's a good thing Master Chief has all these new abilities, because he's up against his toughest adversary yet. Gaul from the Red War has arrived in Destiny, and he's taught the brutes that apes strong together. Apes together strong, and that's totally turned the order of the universe on its head.
Is that where all those stolen NFTs are going into?
Oh my god! Wait, this game.
My apes are not gone. They're in Halo Infinite.
Please help.
Apes gone.
Please help. UNSC dropship looked good. Master Chief came out. All apes gone. Please restore my apes. By the way, Patrick, you'll be thrilled to hear. Yes. I was like, I should prepare for this so that Patrick doesn't just have to talk about Halo to himself. So I was like, I'm gonna play a little Halo Infinite.
Yeah.
Before I can do that, I gotta finally fire up that Master Chief collection.
Oh, okay. I thought you downloaded Halo Wars 2. You haven't opened that yet.
So two things real quick. This is all old information, but who gives a shit? One, Halo Master Chief collection in order of priority at the top of the list. First campaign that suggests you play Halo Reach.
Shut the fuck up. Shut the fuck up. Get the fuck out of here.
I rest my fucking case.
No.
Okay?
Fucking no.
My approach to doing the 101 canonical, recognized by the keepers of the Halo lore, 343 Industries, who, they wouldn't fuck something like this up.
343 famously hasn't fucked up any parts of the Halo lore since they've taken on the games.
2, Halo 1 anniversary thing where you can hit the options button and flip between the new graphics and the old is fucking awesome. That is an incredible feature. Also really highlights the degree to which the remastering stuff they did and reinterpretation of the levels was a disaster.
Oh no.
Like playing through, it goes beyond, it's not like just the aesthetic choices where it's like, I don't like how these uniforms look in the higher res. That doesn't matter. It is that the Halo 1 graphics, in terms of the lighting, in terms of the atmosphere in every scene, it is a consistently darker game. It has like much more of a mood in every environment. There is a sense of style and atmosphere. You go into the remastered graphics, all that gets blown away. It's wild. Like the Pillar of Autumn, the opening escape from that game. The Pillar of Autumn in the original graphics is kind of this dark, forbidding maze in some ways. Yeah, the models are simple, but the idea is like you're aboard a dying starship and like enemies are sort of looming up out of the darkness.
Yeah, there are rooms in that. Here's the thing: I've played just that opening like a million times. Like that's the only like the first hour and a half or whatever of the Halo 1 is the only Halo that I've played aside from multiplayer. There are entire rooms in that area that are like fully pitch black, and then you're seeing into the next room that has lights in it, right? But like, you're like walking through darkness for moments of just like where. And the remastered version,
it's like they put in like fluorescent floods everywhere, and they were like, "Hey, you want to see some greebling?
Look at the greebles on this wall. Like what?"
Yeah, that's a military starship, huh? Skullstars a shit on the bulkhead. We love it.
It's very funny because they do the same tricks in Infinite's opening. There's moments just like that in that first like initial jumping off of the ship area where I was like, oh, I remember from the many times I've played that first level that this is how that looked. Like the kind of lights going on and off and chaos going all around. But this time I have a grappling hook.
The other and it even extends once you make Planetfall. I'm kind of amazed. They kind of in the remastered, you know how the moment of Halo, the thing that really like I think holds up, but also when you played it like back in the day was a legit holy shit moment, and like maybe this Xbox is all right, and maybe this is the future. Is like you step out of the crashed spaceship and you see Halo, right? You see the ring world extending up into the sky, and it's a beautiful shot. In the remastered version, they've added so much like volumetric lighting and cloud cover between you and they redid the texture on the ring that like you kind of can't see Halo very well. You kind of get out of the spaceship and it's like, this makes no impression on me whatsoever. It's like you walk out into a haze, and so it's a weird thing where like I appreciate that they left like the idea that you can just toggle between the two like without any lag is really cool. Yeah, really appreciated. Also, completely highlights the degree to which you shouldn't play it with the new graphics. Like it's kind of a misfire of an approach to updating that game, and I think there's a direction that you could have gone that would have worked, but like you'd have had to be a lot more consistent with like the lighting choices and atmosphere choices they made, and they just didn't. They kind of whiffed on it. But anyway, so yeah, Patrick, I'm now double fisting Halo 1, Halo Infinite.
Never served you wrong.
And you know what? I got to figure out, where'd that Pillar of Autumn come from? Why were they being chased from Reach? How did the Covenant find them so quickly? Maybe I need to start my Reach campaign too.
Rob's gonna do his own Waypoint 101.
Yeah,
which is just him playing the Halo series by himself. We're not gonna join him. Like, this is not an announcement or if Rob does this, he's on his own.
I mean, given the direction of things,
I've been meaning to just fucking do it anyways. So I'll be there with them. on accident.
I don't know though. The way things have been going on some fronts, maybe we just need to experiment with the one man show format though.
Yeah.
Just say like, can I have a conversation with myself about Halo? I think I probably can, and like, I think everyone would love it. People are like, you know what? I'm glad there's no other voices but Rob's here. I think, man, he's so fresh and original. He's having thoughts about Halo nobody's ever had before. I definitely didn't hear these same conversations 6 years ago. Bringing you these takes fresh out of the oven. Except, fresh out of the oven and out of the cellar where they've been aging.
We have to go like immediately, but I want to end this with we don't have to go to E3.
No E3?
Yeah. They're saying because of Omicron, don't believe that. Don't believe that spin.
We were going to have the best show ever.
Don't believe his lies.
So are they still doing online E3?
Because so many other companies realized during COVID they do not need E3. We're gonna E3's again. Yeah, they're doing an online only one. I think it's
Well, see you all at PAX, I guess.
Which is a little bit of a bummer. I want an excuse to get together again, and E3, whatever, it's bullshit.
Oh, we're gonna find some excuses. We can watch some cool trailers online. When's the biggest Nintendo Direct of the year? Maybe we can all be in New York for the big Nintendo Direct.
Yeah.
Well, I thought we were going to visit you in Boston.
You got to come up. You know, that's what we should do. We should shoot something out of my apartment.
When is PAX West? East, not West.
Are they doing that too?
They are.
Dude, that's I
mean, they are.
We'll
and we should
Are they still shooting for the spring? I mean, I guess I
think it's March.
When the infection rates come down, they'll probably come down fast.
It's not even that far. February 27th to March 1st.
Absolutely not.
Nope.
Nope.
Oh wait, sorry. That was last year. Sorry, that was last year.
No, yeah, April 21st to 24th.
April. Okay, that's better.
We might even be able to.
Yeah, maybe. Who knows? Who knows what happened?
We would probably just go to if we did something, we would just go to New York. Anyway.
Yeah, just come.
No, or you just
we have so much expensive equipment that we need.
You guys have so much fun.
we gotta get out of here. You gotta do your.
Oh, right.
You'll get there. I can feel your mouse scrolling.
Well, that's a wrap on today's episode of Waypoint Radio. If you want more Waypoint, you can follow us at Waypoint on Twitter, Waypoint Vice on Facebook and YouTube. You can follow me at Rob Zachney. Patrick.
You can follow me at Patrick Klopik.
Kato.
At _Kato_appears.
For Waypoint Plus listeners, we're going to be watching, we're going to be discussing The Matrix Resurrections next week with Gita. So if you haven't, you should maybe check that out. I recommend checking it out via HBO Max and maybe not going to a theater at this juncture. But I'm not here to tell you what to do. I can merely give you the best advice I can. That sounds good. Or if you want more Waypoint, you can go to waypointplus.com and subscribe. That gives you access to our premium feed, and it also helps us put on our streams. Last year, I think the biggest and most absurd one we did had to have been the Inscription streams. They took on a life of their own. I left something behind in Inscription. Certainly something has been taken from me. But it was a ton of fun, and I hope we can fall down some other interesting rabbit holes this year. So once again, that's waypointplus.com. Theme music is by Bowen off the EP Pale Machine. The track is Miss You. Learn more at waypoint.zone/BOEN. That's us calling it a week. We'll talk to you again next week. Until then, fuck capitalism. Stay home.